Alright guys, today I want to talk about something that most traders never do, switching perspective. Because if you look at the crypto market through the eyes of retail, there's really only one strategy they understand: long. Retail buys dips, retail buys breakouts, retail buys tops, and when the market finally turns against them, they just keep telling themselves the same story. It's just another dip. So before we go deeper into the analysis, let's zoom all the way out and take a look at the long-term Bitcoin chart. Because from this perspective, you can already see the problem. Retail sees this chart and thinks, Bitcoin always goes up. And technically, over the very long term, they're not wrong. But the problem is that between those massive moves upward, there are brutal cycles where the market drops 60 to 80%. And that's exactly where most people lose their money. Not because Bitcoin is a bad asset, but because they completely ignore the cycles. The missing perspective. So now let's start adding a few simple tools to the chart that help us see the market from a different angle. Not the retail perspective, the cycle perspective. The 50-week SMA. The first thing I want to plot is the 50-week simple moving average. This indicator is incredibly simple, but it's extremely powerful. Historically, it has acted almost like a divider between bull markets and bear markets. When price is trading above the 50-week SMA, the market is usually in a strong expansion phase. But when price breaks below it, that's often the moment where the cycle starts shifting from bullish to bearish. And interestingly enough, this signal tends to be one of the last confirmations. It doesn't predict the turn, it confirms it. Which means if you're still thinking like retail at that point, the market has already started moving against you. The 4-year cycle. Now let's add something even more interesting, the 4-year Bitcoin cycle. If we project the previous cycle tops and bottoms forward, something fascinating appears. The timing of these cycles is almost absurdly accurate. Major tops, major bottoms, expansion phases. Again and again, the market moves in these predictable windows. And when you look at it from this perspective, crypto suddenly becomes one of the most predictable macro markets in existence. In fact, in many ways, it's even more structured than traditional markets. Because these cycles give us something incredibly valuable: time, years in advance, years to prepare, years to position ourselves correctly before the next expansion begins. Why perspective matters. And this is the key point. Retail trades the market candle by candle. Professionals trade the market cycle by cycle. Retail asks, where will Bitcoin go tomorrow? Smart traders ask a completely different question. Where are we in the cycle? Because once you understand that, the market stops looking random, and it starts looking like a repeating structure. So the goal isn't just to analyze charts. The goal is to change the way you see the market, to move away from the retail mindset of permanent bullishness, and start understanding the structure behind the cycles. Because once your perspective changes, your strategy changes. And that's where the real edge begins. Alright, now let me show you something. This is a screenshot of my P&L since October 2025. In roughly 5 months, the position generated around $500,000. And before anyone in the comments starts typing, no, this isn't meant to be a flex. I'm not showing this to brag. I'm showing this because it illustrates the exact point we've been talking about in this video. The money wasn't made by predicting every single candle. It wasn't made by trading every 5-minute move. It came from one thing: being positioned on the correct side of the cycle. Once that position was established, time did the rest of the work. The power of positioning. When you understand where the market is in its larger cycle, something interesting happens. Trading becomes much simpler. Instead of reacting to every little move, you already know the macro direction. So the goal is no longer, can I predict the next candle? The goal becomes, am I positioned correctly for the next phase of the cycle? Because if you are, the market will eventually move in your favor. Risk management and emotional control. Now, of course, this doesn't mean you just press a button and become rich overnight. 2 things are absolutely critical: risk management and emotional management. Even if your macro thesis is correct, the market will still move violently against you at times. There will be fake rallies, there will be squeezes, there will be moments where everyone thinks the trend has reversed. If you don't control risk, you won't survive long enough for the cycle to play out. And if you can't control your emotions, you'll close the trade right before it finally moves. The real edge. But once you combine cycle awareness, risk management, and emotional discipline, something powerful happens. You stop trying to trade every candle. You stop reacting to every tweet. And you stop chasing every breakout. Instead, you position yourself once, in the right phase of the cycle, and then you let time compound the result. No more candle-to-candle trading, just positioning and patience. Alright, before we wrap up this video, I want to show you one last thing. This is my copy trading account on Bitunix, the exchange where I'm currently executing these trades. The reason I'm showing this is simple. A lot of people watch these analyses and ask the same question. How can I actually follow these positions? And that's exactly why the copy trading is already running. It allows people who don't want to execute every trade manually to simply mirror the positions automatically. But I want to be very clear about something. In this video, I'm not going into the full strategy yet, because the way this strategy works over the next few years will probably surprise quite a few people. The positioning, the cycle timing, the risk management, all of that deserves its own dedicated video. So in one of the next videos, I'll break down exactly how this approach works long term, how the cycle strategy is applied, and why this method can potentially outperform the traditional way most people trade crypto. For now, the copy trading is already live if you want to follow along. You'll find the exchange link in the video description if you want to check it out. And as always, if you enjoy this type of analysis and want to see more insights about market cycles, positioning, and real trading strategies, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.